Welcome back to another episode of Photo Conversations, where we have conversations about photography, film, and so much more about life. So I'll just give you a brief of what leads us to this podcast. This podcast is very special. Like I told you, most of the time, it's inspiration that leads me to creating some of these podcasts. When I meet somebody and they inspire me, I automatically get the fire. I get the urge to talk about it. I get the urge to dig deeper and, get more perspective, get more insight about, whatever has inspired me. So a couple of weeks ago, I was invited for an event by my neighbors. My neighbors are artists. They do painting. They do all forms of art, abstract art, digital art. So they invited me for an event, and being a neighbor, I'm like, you know what? Let me go and attend this event because I'm a good neighbor. So, but when I went to this event, I was so surprised at the whole concept of the event. So the event was about it circled around how we celebrate African cuisine or African food, and specifically it was the local arrangement of how a family in a traditional African setting would have a meal. And what surprised me the most is that the people that were there were, artists, were, I would say, the modern Gen Z kind of people. So I was really shocked that our generation or the younger generation, the current generation, would actually be interested in something that traditional. Like, how was food served? What was the arrangement in the home? What were the norms? What were the cultural norms behind the entire concept of an African meal, an African dinner, or an African lunch? So I was really amazed by the concept. We had the meal, we played music, and we shared ideas about how this whole traditional idea of a meal in an African setting is slowly being eroded by the new in quotes, Western concepts. And we talked about KFC and how it's different. I got an opportunity to talk to the person that curated this event because I was very, very curious to know what was going on in her mind to create something of this sort. Actually, the event didn't have many people. We were about 10 to 12 people, but the numbers didn't matter. The subject mattered more than the numbers. So for me, that was amazing. So today, I decided to invite the curator, the concept owner of that event, to this podcast so that we can dig deeper into, what was going on in the mind, what was the motive, what is the inspiration behind putting up an event of that nature. Of course, we've had events like, what do they call it? I think there's the Bachiga Nation. There's also, I've had cultural events, the Luo, people doing the northern food connection kind of things, but this was a bit unique. It was the Buganda culture, the Bantu culture. So allow me introduce to you Gorreth Nagganja, the lady that curated this event, developed the concept. You are welcome to this podcast, and I'm happy to have you here. I like the way you pronounce your name with. The way you pronounce your name, you pronounce it with confidence, Nagganja.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're welcome to this podcast. I'm happy to have you here. And please, could you share with us who you are as a person? Gwani. Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Gorreth Nagganja, yes. I can say that I am a creative. I like to think about myself as just a creative person. For a long time, I explored my creativity mostly through writing, but eventually I started going into visual art, and I think that's how we ended up at the event where you were invited.
Interesting. So, but I also know you're also into tech, IT, and stuff like that. Could you tell us more about your tech background?
I come from a family of people who like books. Yeah, like my family, they are readers, especially my father. We had like a home library and everything. So I spent a lot of my childhood reading books that have nothing to do with childhood, those kinds of kids. So I think naturally I evolved into like I became a writer. I was a very creative kid. My mind was always like coming up with stories and things like that. So I think when I was in high school, literature was my best subject, just because there was like a creative writing part to it where I could just sit down and write and. But I think I was like informed too. One time I wrote like this story for like marking for an exam, and then handed it in. We went home. The results were coming back like at the start of the term, and then I reported to school, and I find out I reported to school late, so I find out that our literature teacher had like marked my paper, and then like he underlined like all the things he wasn't happy with and everything. And then he came to class, like in a class full of students, and started to like read out what I had written, but like in a way to like make fun of the essay and everything. Like I think his issue was like the concept was too scattered, like there were too many stories in one story. And the reason for it was like I was just a creative kid, like my mind was racing all the time, and I think like I needed guidance, like a teacher to help to shape the story and everything. But instead, my best class, the teacher just like made fun of my work. So I stopped writing for a really long time, and that's how like I completely pivoted away and went into like sciences and everything, so much that I even got an engineering degree. So that's how I ended up in like the IT field and everything. So I still work in it, but I think in adulthood I came back to my creative side and I started to write again, and I ended up in the art scene.
What an interesting background right there. We have a bit of a similarity. I was also more into writing when I was in high school, and the same thing happened. Though for me, I wasn't reprimanded for writing. I was I got like this thing of where teachers like, you guys. I mean, I used to write like very bizarre stories.
Yeah.
And I really relate when you talk about that. Wow, it's interesting how you have an engineering background, and now you're into trying to curate cultural events and things like that.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy, but I like the living in both worlds, because it makes you like a balanced person. Yeah, I feel like it's one of the things that makes my life so full. So I'm not giving any of them up.
Lovely. So moving forward, where do you get the inspiration to create an event like that? Let alone the inspiration, the courage. I mean, it was a 15 people event, but I could see the satisfaction that you had, that we had showed up for the event and we were celebrating together. And I don't know, I mean, where does this come from? What's the motive?
So I gave up writing for a while, but the thing I didn't give up is reading. So I usually just, to pass time, I just either fall deep into a book that I really like, or like fall on an internet, rabbit hole. So I think I started to read a lot into post-colonial worlds. Somehow I ended up on that side of the internet, and I fell down these rabbit holes of like really interesting pre-colonial stories, like how our cultures used to exist, the way like our cultures were structured and everything like that. And I found it so fascinating. Like I was mind blown. No one taught us at school to look at our history from this angle. It's like they began teaching us from like when the missionaries came and teaching us to, I don't know, be grateful because they came and taught us English. It's very strange. But so I fall into that world. I am extremely fascinated by it. And I started to do this thing on TikTok, where if I read something and I found it so interesting, I would come and record a video about it and share it. So this one time, I think I shared a story about Kabaka Mutesa, the first king who met the explorers, yeah. And I found this artwork that I was reading about where these guys came, they would just sit in his courtroom and then they would draw him. Like they would draw him, sometimes he would be naked, so like it was so strange. So I found it so interesting. They were literally obsessed with him. They would just sit and watch him and write about him back to England, and it was so strange. So I posted that video and it went viral. Like me, I was just posting because I found it interesting. I didn't see it coming. It completely went viral and people were like in the comment section. I realized how much interest people had and how little people know about these worlds. Like I wasn't just the only one. So I did that for a while. I would find something really interesting. I post about it. People are really engaging. And so I did that for a while. But then eventually, like obviously that thirst to know more about yourself and your culture, like because people are so interested, I also got a need to explore it a bit further. So I was writing about it, obviously. Some of the essays would be published in like magazines and stuff, but then I wanted to do something a bit more like physical, right? And yeah, so when I was a kid, I think maybe when I was like 2 years old or something like that, before my grandmother passed away, I had this memory, like a very distant memory from when you're a child, when we ate food like in her house, and that was the setup. Her house was like the real mud houses. There was like grass on the floor, and she laid down like the food there, and I just in that imagination of a child. And I held that memory so close to my heart. And I realized like it's a really good entryway for a lot of people because people eat luombo, they know matoke, but they don't actually know the whole setup, the way that it was in the cultural, the days before interruption came and modernization came. So I decided to kind of introduce us, or like the people who are around me, to this world that I knew about. Yeah.
This is so interesting. I like the fact that what you did that day comes from a long forgotten past, in the deepest of your childhood memories. For me, that speaks to how memories are not just memories. They're very powerful. I would say the memories have life in them.
Yeah. True.
And why do I say they have life? They have life because they can influence you. You can be influenced by a memory that comes from the past, like how you say you. And also, I see two things. I see the memory of that occurrence at your grandmother's influencing you, but I also see the need, the love or the need or the urge to share this with your circle, because I remember that day. That's your circle. These are your people. I think for me, it's an interesting thing that a person working a corporate job and with an engineering background gets into art and then gets into curating an event like that. But also, I would say, in doing that, you are solving a larger problem, though on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Because when you look at our society today, there is conflict, and the conflict is we are fast driving into a contemporary, modern society, but also still have a little bit of our roots still attached to our culture. And I think especially children or young people, children that are born within this era, there's a lot of conflict conflict around, do I hang on to my culture, or do I move forward into the modern world? And that's the conflict that we are having. And it's not just even about food. It's about architecture. It's about fashion and design. You clearly see a clear conflict. We are conflicted. you're asked to put on a suit for
in hot weather.
yeah, in hot weather, but also for like your office meeting. But on Sunday you have an event for Kwanjula, and then you have to shift back. I know like having a homogeneous or having like a well-defined direction when it comes to culture may not be easy. So we keep playing around we move from modern, Western, we jump back to our traditional and things like that. So for me, you doing that, you're solving a problem, though you only managed it on a small scale. My imagination would be, how about such a thing is taken up on a larger scale? Did you ever imagine after the event, because I'm sure some of there must have been like afterthoughts after the event, did you imagine like what such a concept could achieve on a larger scale? Because I know you, after the event, you saw what we felt, you saw how excited we were. But what do you think this could do if projected onto a larger scale?
So for me, I think just by observing the people who are there with me and from my own experience of exploring culture to this extent, I think the main thing that it can achieve is solve for us what I think is an identity crisis, essentially. You can travel like all over the world. You can engage with all the options that we have of who to be in this world. But I don't think any of it can solve the identity question as much as connecting to like your roots and exploring them to that extent. So that push for me led me to this event, but I can also see how continuing to project culture like this, maybe through art like I did, or through social media like these creators that are going viral of late, just kind of exporting our culture to the rest of the world. So I feel like an event like this, I can expand it. I already have ideas about it on how to push it to more people and everything like that. But I think it would be so beneficial because it would ground people again, yeah? So, I don't know, you can be a BTS fan, you can be like a soccer fan, and that's okay. But if you have this grounding, it will give you like a bit of direction in this globalization that's going on. And I think that's so important. So I think that's where the value lies. Yeah.
Interesting. But the other thing I remember that I shared with you after the event was the entrepreneurial aspect of that event. Because I remember saying that the best way to test an idea is to test it on within a small, on a micro level. Test, if it's a group of people, test it with 5 people, 10 people. And then from that, you're able to gauge as to whether this can actually be a success or not. Yeah. Did you already have like an entrepreneurial, besides the passion and the inspiration, did you have like an entrepreneurial aspect in mind when you're thinking of the concept?
No, when I was thinking about it, not really. There was not an intention for entrepreneurship, obviously, but seeing how people reacted to it and having conversations with different people, including yourself, like I realized, like, wow, this was a whole process of entrepreneurship from when I planned the event, from when I conceptualized it, and then I planned it, and then I found the resources, and I actually brought it to life. So I can see how it can be lifted into like a tangible project that can be in like a business, right? Because people are hungry for connection like this. So yeah, I can see how it can work.
And the different angles of that event that can actually be commercialized. There's the angle of teaching people, teaching children. You remember how the ladies that prepared the meals were telling us about echisagati. They call it echisakate, something like that. Yeah, that thing where they bring in girls and to culture them and to give them a little bit of grounding in terms of their culture, in terms of their tradition as Baganda or as Basoga or as whatever tribe. So that element of entrepreneurship was very clear to me because of the increase in modernity. You go to an international school, you barely speak your local language, you barely eat your local meals. You're always having the fast meals, the fast food. For me, I already saw that there are people that would want to pay for their children to experience this, to learn this, to learn how do you sit when you're eating, how do you prepare the meals. So that is one aspect, but also the aspect of entertainment. People would love to watch, not even just entertainment, but the aspect of tourism. When people from other parts of the world come to Uganda, the first thing they will tell you, I would like to taste the local...
Like an authentic Ugandan experience.
And I remember we talked about how restaurants that have like international cuisine, like say for example the Japanese restaurant,
right?
the Thai restaurants, the Lebanese restaurants. We talked about how these people have mastered the art of
packaging
their culture
yeah.
through food,
yeah.
and actually charging exorbitantly, to the point that when you go there to have a meal, you feel like they've done you a favor to have you. So you pay willingly. Yeah. So, and I remember we were saying, why haven't we done the same thing? Why haven't we evolved our traditional culture to fit the times, but also to harness the commercial aspect of the economy, to make money out of it? Instead, you find small restaurants like in Wandegea, Nakulabye, where and say, we have local Ugandan food. I know some of restaurants in town that do acholi food. I'm like, why haven't we done this? I mean, I don't know what you think, but why haven't we evolved our culture in architecture, in fashion, and in everything else to the standards, to the global standards, so that we can actually be appreciated and accorded some sort of value by the rest of the world? Why do you think that's happening?
So for me, what I see, apart from the obvious, we have a deep belief that what we are is something that is of no value, or is of something that has no place on the global stage when it comes to like modernity. Like, obviously, we know how these things were ingrained in us. We were beaten in primary school for speaking vernacular. We were like literally taught that what we are is something that is either backward or, for whatever intention. But I think social media has done such a great job, because when people put our culture on the global stage using social media, it became very obvious that other people, like the rest of the world, doesn't think this. Yes, like you can see some of the content creators that have millions of followers now because people are fascinated by what they are seeing. Like, oh my God, your architecture is like this. Like, I don't know, like people are actually seeing this culture and showing us, reflecting back to us its value. We didn't have that before social media. So I think going by the beliefs that we had that obviously have colonial roots, we didn't have a chance at that point. But now we have the opportunity to actually understand this. And so an opportunity to tell our own story in a way that we can now take to like version 2, right? Me, the way I've chosen to do it is through art. Yeah, so I do these exhibitions and people get to look at themselves through another perspectives, like to see their culture through someone else's eyes and see the value in it. So that's what I've done with this. But someone else might do the documenting part, because social media is documenting. So to tell our own story in a way that's favorable to us, that's also going to help us take it to the next stage. Yeah, so that culture export, for me, I think will do it.
And for me, one of the things you said that I find interesting is how social media has played a major role in exporting our culture, though in very unconventional ways.
Yeah, no one would.
No one would ever
No one
predict
saw
this,
it coming.
You know? I think I've seen like 2 or 3 girls,
Yeah.
especially I think there are also men doing this, going back to their villages, living raw lives, the raw African life, how they live, how our ancestors actually lived. You had a hut, you went to the garden, you got your food, you cooked your food, you had your food, you played with your community, you went and this is being documented. I think social media, I'll give social media credit, but I'll also give credit to the people that are willing,
to
to
actually
do
it.
this. And most of the times, what I find interesting is that these people are actually the most modern people you will meet.
Yeah.
But because I think, I don't know, I would like to have a conversation with one of them because I'm like, what pushed you to do this?
I think I know why. See, when you travel to the rest of the world, and then you see how other people are living
their
as
authentic
themselves. They're
lives.
living authentic lives, right?
Yeah.
When you're in that space, the first thing that happens to your mind is obviously start to question yourself, like, wow, these people have a right to exist
Why
in
am
the
I
world
trying to
as
be like
why
them,
am I
yet
trying
they
to
are
be
not
like
trying to
them?
be like me?
I think that's the biggest thing that has actually pushed that. So when you come back to yourself, unlike someone who has been here the whole time, their mind is still stuck in that belief that who they are, maybe they need to aspire to be someone else. But after you have seen it, you can't go back. So I think that's a very helpful thing.
It beats my understanding why we want to be like other people, but also why we look at our own as substandard, backward, and primitive. But you talked about something interesting. You know, this has been shoved down our throats, shoved down our minds. You know that whatever you're living, the life you're living, your culture is nothing. It is primitive. It doesn't have a place in the world, and I would say it has also been done in a very subtle way, especially by the education system, but even our own parents, our own governments approve of, you know. But lately, I see there's sort of like a revolution. People are starting to wake up and seeing things differently. People are starting to question ideas.
Yeah.
And I think you're one of the people that is questioning these ideas. One thing I've noticed is that our culture doesn't. Okay, it does evolve, but if the rate at which it is evolving is so slow, so slow, and I would say one of the reasons why our culture is not evolving is because it's not documented. It's hard to evolve something that I would say it will still evolve. Evolution is a must, but documented evolution of a culture is one of the best things that can happen, because then society can track back and know at what stage are we and where is this headed. Of course, I credit the Uganda people for taking time to document and track the evolution of their culture, but also because you know how they say that, like if you want to predict the future, you need to first study the history. Yeah. And one of the things I like about the Uganda kingdom is the Kabaka. It's called Kabaka Njagala Road. The road that goes up, and it has all the...
Yeah, it's excellent documentation of the clans.
The clans and Chebedira.
I think it's Omuziro.
Oh, in Luzungu, in English.
I think it's Omuziro. Oh, in English, your totem, your clan.
No, it is not.
No, but your clan. Like for me, my clan... My tribe is Amamuganda, but my clan is Namungona.
Namungona is what? I actually don't know.
Namungona, I mean the English.
No. What? So on that road is Namungona also there?
Yes, it's the black and white crow. The one that has that's Namungona.
It's called Namungona.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You see, so the Bagandas. and I would say Buganda has done so well
So good.
to document, and through art. That's amazing. That
Yeah.
whole road shows all the clans, and it has some inscriptions written to describe what clan it is and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And hopefully there are people trying to modernize the documentation, because when the documentation is modernized and it can easily be accessed, it's so sad that
the documentation should also move with the times.
Yeah.
Which is where social media comes in.
Social media is a way
Yeah.
of documenting. Of course, social media has its own problems of things like to do with verifying the authenticity of the misinformation and things like that. But
At least
it's better to have.
it's a start.
It's better to have. Let me put it this way: for every wrong information, there's something in there.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of truth that can later on be verified by actually proper verification services.
Yeah.
It's like how we get a document and you're like, was it written in 1900? We could do maybe carbon dating, and then there should be some sort of carbon dating on social media to be able. And I know that there are actually whole enterprises focusing on misinformation and combating all that on social media.
Yeah.
It has also become another form of income generation. People are investing in it. So, how do we then go forward? How do we get our culture from version 1 to 1.0 and upwards? And that does not mean that we forget the true essence, the unfiltered culture. But there is a way culture can be evolved without tampering with its foundation.
Yeah.
And one of the things for me that still bothers me is mainly to do with architecture and fashion. I feel that our African architecture, traditional architecture, huts, and the entire homestead setup where every hut has a purpose. The kitchen, the chores, the rack, and all that thing, and all those things put together to form a home. I feel it's one of the architectural setups that haven't evolved to. With evolution comes value. So they haven't evolved to tap into
that value.
That value where we can say, okay, we are going to build a kasisira or a hut as in the middle of Kampala, and it's going to be 150 floors, but it still carries the foundational architectural principles of our culture. Same with fashion. Why haven't we had? Of course, Bitenjis. I still
Bitenjis is not ours.
It's not even ours. I feel like there's a lot going on there.
It's very offensive
But that's another conversation. Yeah. If we talk about Kanzus, someone will tell you it's not
it's
even
also
ours.
no. It's honestly
it has Arabic
background.
I would say is rooted in our culture.
Yeah.
It is part. Why hasn't this? There are few. Of course, there are few artists. There are few designers who are trying to do this. I think it has also been recognized by, I don't know that that's recognition or not, by big designs, or it is actually stealing.
Yeah, so
and owning. But the thing is, why haven't these architecture, fashion, why haven't we? This is the question. Why haven't we evolved them to fit the new times, to harness the value out of them, to get global recognition? And then, how then do we do this? That would be the final question.
I think it's actually very simple as to why we haven't shifted from version 1 to the next. And it's simply to do with research, right? And for people to make research. Now, for example, if I take backcloth, we needed to find a way to take backcloth into something that's let's say washable, right? Because the way that it is right now, you can't wash it. You have to keep it in a certain state. So it requires someone, maybe an artist, maybe a scientist, to put in the work to research how we can make that material. What can we mix with it to actually make it make it practical,
practical,
right?
Right.
And no one has done that. The reason is because no one was taking interest. Again, it goes back to a core belief that we have, that this thing has no value, right? So if we can change that core belief for people to take ownership of this thing, so that whenever you go in the world and you find back cloth, you feel that this is yours. Like, you know how Americans walk around and they see signs of America all over the world?
Levi
That's
jeans
why
this is
that's why
American.
they're so confident, right? Yeah, so we don't see ourselves reflected in value anywhere, but it has to start with us. So when you look at architecture, like when you go to Kasubi tombs, like it's not possible for you not to be amazed. But this is something that's ours. It's not like someone came and told us this is our thing. So what we need to do with like that architectural, first of all, look at it. What makes it so fragile is the fact that maybe it's very easy to flame, like it's very
How do we
flammable.
make it
But
fireproof?
like someone can actually do the research into how do I take it to a stage where fire is not so much of a problem, right? So things like that, we need to do research. We don't invest in research here because people are living on survival, right? Survival. But if someone can take the funding to actually find value in these things, because research takes funding and it takes time, right? To find people who actually have these interests, we can do it. We can take it to version 2.
And the other thing, what also bothers me is that the people that recognize value in such things are actually not Ugandans.
Exactly.
If you look around and see the people that are funding research, especially art and culture, you notice they're not Ugandan entities. I've worked with one organization. On the surface, it looks Ugandan, but when you look at the funding, you realize it's not their interest.
Yeah.
It's the interest of someone in the UK. It's the interest of someone in the US. I mean, why are these people more interested? Actually, that would be the question that would get us to wake up. Why are they more interested in our culture than we are? You know, that should bother us and be like, you know what? I think there's something important in this. Let's put more research. Of course, I don't want to go political. You know, when it gets messy when we go there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Sure.
There's a lot of self-reflection that we need to do as a country to be able to get back on track with what worked for us.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just exporting things that we don't understand, culture that we don't understand, culture that is not compatible with who we are as a person. I believe in vibrations. I believe in an aura that exists around us.
Energy.
And sometimes it will just not work for you, even if practically, scientifically, it's proven to work. But it may not work for you because of who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like I don't understand why one would put on a tie. Like you literally put yourself under stress. This is ridiculous. But I think, to be fair enough, one would...
We better not find you in a tie tomorrow,
No. That's another story. How do I call it? Adaptation is also something else.
Do as I say, not as I do.
That's another conversation we would have. Like, you don't need to be rigid. You adapt.
Yeah, you don't need to be rigid.
You adapt, but me, I would say you adapt on the surface, but your core should be intact.
You should be grounded somewhere.
That's the right word. Be grounded. Doesn't mean
grounded.
I can't put on sneakers. But teori agenda kunzija kurugabire. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But anyways, I think for me there's a lot to do. I like the idea of research. You've talked about it. I remember as we close this conversation, because it's gone on for too long, but it seems like time is not even moving.
Right.
You know, so when we were closing that time, when we had a chat together, one of the problems that we identified was, where do you start from? Tutandikirewa.
Yeah.
And I remember we're like, we have 5 artists. We can think about it and start something, start somewhere. But long story short, apart from me and you meeting up, who else ever showed up for this cause?
Everyone was so excited about it.
Everybody
but
has
what
gone
next?
back to their lives.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you keep that fire burning? How do you keep the curiosity? How do you keep the intentions to do certain things? You get?
Yeah.
So how do we do this? Because I'm not going to be on my podcast and say, government yetuyambe. No, I'm not going to say that. That's a defeatist mindset.
Yeah.
And my philosophy is change begins with you. You know?
Even the government is looking at you.
Yeah, the government is also looking at me. So, that would be like, how do we do this as artists?
So, for me, what has been so important is to have a community of people, of like-minded people, right? It can be risky because it can keep you kind of like in an echo chamber because you guys are just talking to each other. But again, it's so important to have these people who reflect back to you your vision, right? I might be working on making exhibitions that are connected with culture, but here you are and we are using your studio to put this information outside. Someone else might be working with backcloth, but being in communities like that, I think actually it's the only thing that can keep the fire burning. Like on your own, the forces of globalization are too much. You'd get swept away. So I would encourage everyone to kind of, if you have this interest, find like-minded people, and that's probably how you'll keep going. Yeah,
I think that's a good way to look at things. You start from where you are and collaborate with others.
Collaboration.
The synergy always produces more than what one person is able to achieve.
And I think additionally, we can take advantage of the global stage, right? If we are not finding support here and attention and funding, it is okay to take this thing to a global stage, to find funding elsewhere. It might seem like a counter thing because we say like colonialism came and destroyed our culture, but then we are kind of going back to these communities for funding. But that's what is available right now. So if you feel like you have a way to source funding elsewhere, to take this idea forward and to give it, because we have seen that when people see it on the global stage and give it attention, it even affects the minds of people down here at home. So I think finding a community and then finding a global stage on which to present this can also be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. It reminds me of how everyone watched Wakanda. And there was this Kaluya guy who probably has never even lived in Uganda.
And people
but
were
just hearing the name.
That's my cousin.
Kaluya, you know. So saying going on a global stage, much as it's counter what we
kind of
want to do as anti-neocolonialist, neocolonialism people, we would say it's I would say desperate times calls for desperate measures. So if that's what it takes to get some recognition, to get some attention, yeah, we can deal with the consequences after. We can deal with the consequences after. I've said that in politics. People are like, "Evidako to Jabia." But for now, this is what we need to do. So, but I also think. Like they say, how iron sharpens iron. You need to be in the right spaces.
You really do.
You need to be within the right, like-minded people
so important.
To keep your dream going. I love music so much, but I sometimes fall off track. I forget my music dream. But when I get into spaces where people share the same energy, same aspirations, man, the way the fire comes back, it's like you're in a jam session and you're like, this is it. I need to do this. So I think it's like, but the battery runs out, especially when you're in a country that, how do they say, everyone for themselves.
Everyone for themselves.
That's Uganda
the
for you.
The survival mode is...
So it's easy the battery will always be low for your aspirations, for your dreams. You spend more time actually trying to survive Man, surviving takes a lot of energy. so I think you need to be in spaces where you attract the same energies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you've had it from the horse's mouth, and there's a lot to take home. We've talked about the conflict that we're having, the cross-cultural conflict that we're having, but we've also talked about how we can actually start to lift our own culture, our own traditional things, architecture. And one of the things that really caught my attention is, reaching out to the global stage to be able to achieve some of these things, much as it might seem like a counterproductive move, especially for people that are anti-colonialism. But then you need to start from somewhere. But then also you talked about documentation. It's a lot of things we've talked about.
Really,
Honestly speaking, I'm going to go back home and think about these things. I like your hair. And you told me you go like that to office. Don't you get like stares of people being like,
people find it, I get more compliments than, people find it fascinating. Nice. Like, oh my God, you mean I can just live with my natural hair like that? So yeah.
But I also like see this. A silent rebellion inside of you. You're like how we live is how we live our lives is the loudest form of communication.
Yeah, it is. It communicates a lot of things.
I might not say stuff, but how I live says a lot.
So in a world that's forcing me to like have to alter the way that I look in order to fit into certain spaces, to just show up as yourself authentically, it sends a message that this is valuable. I think this is beautiful. I think, so...
I know like the world is always trying to pound us into line, like panopticans to fit the box. So when I see people that are actually living according to their beliefs, according to their ideas, I'm really, really inspired. So thank you so much for coming on to accepting to be on this podcast. I've learned so much, and I hope to see you on another podcast, because definitely there's a lot to talk about. We've just scratched the surface. I'm also hoping to see another event that you curate, and please make sure to invite me, and we see the version 1.0, like we're talking about the evolution. How do you evolve this? So thank you so much. Our viewers, thank you so much for watching this YouTube video. Feel free to subscribe to our channel, Photo Conversations Uganda, but also share or comment in the comment section. We'll be happy to know what you think. Thank you so much, and catch you on the next episode. Cheers.
Bye.